Welcome to the Lady Landlords Podcast, where we empower women to gain financial freedom through real estate investing. I'm your host, Becky Nova, founder of Lady Landlords. If you're ready to buy, manage, and grow your real estate investing portfolio, then let's get started. Welcome back to today's episode of the Lady Landlords Podcast. Today, we have one of my favorite types of episodes. This is a member spotlight. We are interviewing one of our members from the Lady Landlords Inner Circle, Karina, on her very first rental property. So Karina, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm really excited to be on the podcast and the real estate and have this conversation with you. Thanks so much for having me, Becky.
Of course. I've had so much fun working with you and just seeing the strides and the work that you've put in to really make this portfolio come to life has been exciting. So I'm so happy that you opted to share your story with our other ladies. So first question I always like to start with is, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? Non-real estate related stuff. Let's talk about who Karina, the woman, is first.
So I'm Karina. Hello, everyone. I'm always starting with, I'm a mom of two beautiful girls. I'm immigrant. My family moved to the United States a few years ago. I'm Ukrainian, born and raised there. And I'm a medical director. I work in clinical trials and clinical research. So I'm very new to the real estate.
I love that you work in clinical research. That's my background. We talked about that on the very first time that we showed up on a call together. And what was so interesting, I feel like there were so many things that we take from clinical research that make us really good real estate investors. But I love the fact that you moved here from another country, that you work in the medical field and do something as important as clinical research. I think that's great. We'll come back. I'm going to ask you later what you think your profession helps you do well in real estate. But for those that are listening to the Lady Landlords podcast, you won't be able to see this. But since Karina and I have done this call, she has the number 42 in a frame over her head. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. But I have to ask Karina, what is number 42?
Sure, it could mean many things. But for me and my husband is the universal icebreaker for ever new guests in our home, because we are big fans of sci-fi literature. And there is a very famous novel saying that there is a machine, like artificial intelligence, that can answer any questions, but only one question you can ask. And when the person is asking, okay, what's the answer to all the questions of humanity, saying 42, and he was struggling, but what does it mean that you have only one question? So my learning is be careful with your questions if you have only one question.
Right, we'd be very specific. Exactly. I love that. The first thing that came to my mind, as everybody knows, I really love baseball, was actually Jackie Robinson. And that was the first thing that came across my mind. But one of the other things that I also want to make sure that we point out here is, Karina, what state do you currently live in?
We are in California right now. Yeah, 3 hours between us.
Right. I know. Exactly. You're starting your morning as I'm starting my afternoon here. The reason I bring that up is because we have a lot of investors and Lady Landlords that say, hey, I'm in a high cost of living area. I'm over here in New York. You're over there in California. We have quite a few other states in between. That markets have completely changed, especially after the pandemic or since the pandemic began back in 2020. So I just wanted to make sure we really highlighted that you, as an investor in California, in the Bay Area, were still able to make this work. So let's dive in here. I have to ask, what made real estate even pop up on your radar? You are a medical director. You work within pharma. That's a very successful career right there, but you still chose to do something kind of outside the box. What drew you to real estate?
It's true. And thanks for asking this question, Becky, because I want to start with that. I'm really happy with my 9 to 5. It's a very fulfilling job. But as I mentioned earlier, we are immigrants family. So as soon as we arrived to the United States and settled down here in beautiful California, on the other hand, we realized that me and my husband, we're both not high earners, but we are behind many, many things that are very normal for American people. We are behind having enough savings for our retirement. We're behind for college savings to our kids, etc., etc. So we realized very quickly that we must do something out of box just to accelerate our path to the successful financial future. So we started to learn and to read, and real estate appeared as the main theme among many things. Like, or if you want to be wealthy and healthy in America, you have to have real estate as part of your portfolio. So that is why. That's why I think our experience is very relevant to many immigrants who are starting their ways here in the United States and want to be successful here.
Well, you had mentioned there that you started kind of reading things and started to kind of look into what other options you could do besides just the 9 to 5. Can you share a little bit about either what you listened to, what you read? What sources did you go to just to even start to educate yourself in those different financial options?
Yeah, sure. So when we started with the very basic research, just talking to people, Googling things, reading lots of forums, like I believe the bigger pockets is like no brainer for everyone who wants to be there. And of course, there are tons of information available. And I can say that I'm avid learner, so I can learn really quick. And I was reading and I was trying to apply also some financial acumen to that knowledge, but I still feel that something is missing. And then I found you.
Yeah. Why, thank you. I'm going to come to that in a second. But besides real estate, was there anything else that you considered or thought about or discussed with your husband saying, like, maybe we do this, maybe we do this? Or was real estate just rise to the top really fast?
Honestly, no, real estate was not my first options. Honestly, it was scary to start with that because it looks like, at least in my head, these areas have the regulated. You have to be rich, you have to be experienced, or you have to be from the family who already invested in real estate. So all those thoughts were in my head before I started. And of course, we started with much easier from my perspective, things such as investing in the stock market, right? We
Hmm.
have our 401k, it's like no brainer. Then you can easily switch or divest your portfolio. But I quickly realized that there are some limitations in that strategy as well. Yeah, you can do many things with investing in stock market, but not everything. So at some point, the universal recommendation is diversify, diversify. So that is why I said, okay. And when we started to think about the diversification, so at that point, yeah, it came as, okay, real estate.
Right. Do you feel that real estate is still a part of the American dream for many people?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting cultural discovery, if I can say so, because again, as an immigrant, we keep learning and exploring America in many different ways. I love it. I love the culture. I love people. I love how we as immigrants have been accepted here. We are very grateful. But also, I discovered that in many, many things, we are having a different life strategies, if I can say so, right? We have these universal values. We all want to see ourselves happy and healthy, but how exactly we're going to achieve it, this is different. And for
Right.
instance, in my homeland country, in Ukraine, real estate is something that you do as a backup donor, if I can say so. So it's something like secondary. It's not that popular, so for many reasons, but it's not that big part of building wealth strategy. And again, in America, I see that, oh wow, it's like maybe one of the first things that you have to teach your kids to do yourself if you want to be healthy and wealthy. Yeah.
I completely agree with you. I feel like, as you said, real estate is just such a way that you see, especially in America, those that have wealth have real estate portfolios in some perspective. And that's very interesting that learning and absorbing this new culture that now you're in, that's something that you recognized and rather quickly, it was so upfront for you to really kind of see that. Very similarly for my husband, who's an immigrant from the Dominican Republic, for him, it was such a goal to really be able just to even get a house to live in for himself, that literally just anything on top of that is just such icing. But it really is such a big deal and something that I think, me being born here, sometimes I take for granted a little bit. I've been very fortunate and privileged to have that, but not everybody's in that situation, especially for many, many different reasons, as somebody be moving from another country. But that's interesting that it was something that was so in front of your face that, hey, here, welcome to America, buy real estate, make money, right?
It's true, but also what I want maybe is to stress first, I just share the same feeling, even having, the place in America as your primary residence is a big milestone for many, many, many immigrants. I know it's definitely a part of this American dream. On the other side, it's very interesting, Becky, that you mentioned that all these wealthy people has real estate in their portfolio. And here we are coming to this, not problem, but interesting trick in our minds, right? That these things somehow automatically, maybe many people have the same bias as I did, that you have to be wealthy to start investing. And what I discovered with your help, that it's not true. You could be just from the middle class to start with. There are many programs that will support you on this journey if you really want to start, if you're eager to learn and you're ready to work. So it's not for wealthy people. That one of the key messages I want to deliver to my fellow immigrants or whoever people want to. You don't have to be wealthy to start investing in real estate. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that because you're completely right. And I actually had the same impression and believed the same thing before I got started. I remember being like, nobody's going to give me a loan. Nobody is going to trust me to purchase a property. It's hard enough, especially in a high cost of living area like New York and California. It's hard enough to even buy a first property, let alone to be able to buy extra properties. So I'm really glad you said that. Now, if I remember correctly, our first call, one of the things that I remember you saying to me was also that being new to this country, and even though you owned your primary home, that you still felt that it was almost like a secret or like a code with how to be able to build that rental property. I remember you saying like, but I'm not from here. Like, we don't know how to do those things. Do you feel like that's something that probably other immigrants are thinking the same thing?
Yeah, I think you capture it beautifully. It looks for me like something like sacred knowledge. And I'm very happy that we overcame this barrier. And right now, that's actually, again, one of the reasons that I want to spread these words that you can do this. There is no sacred knowledge. There is no magic things that you have to accomplish before start investing.
Right. So at that point, you now know real estate's your decision. That's the way that you want to go. You start kind of reading things, start looking into things. By that point, you would join Lady Landlords. What made you say, hey, I'm going to get on a call with this chick from New York, Becky, and I'm going to see how she can help me? What made you take that step in having that first initial call we had?
Yeah, it's a great question, Becky, because I was asking that exactly question to myself. Like, okay, I've read so much, like, when I'm going to start to do this. And I had some figures, some numbers in my head that maybe after that threshold, I will be ready. Then I realized that I'm very close to this threshold and I'm still not ready. So we start to look into this magical component, like, okay, what else? What else is missing here? And I realized that this is support and community that will share the same interest and maybe the same goals that I do. And I found Lady Landlords. And even being in that community is incredibly helpful for me. And I learned a lot from that. But at some point again, I realized that maybe I need even more. And that is why I joined your mentorship program. And I'm very happy to be your mentee.
Sure.
To have someone who is 100% on your side always, it's a very big deal. And again, I cannot stress enough, maybe because I feel so not desperate, but alone as an immigrant here, away from our friends and family, and no one can teach you, or even people who will be teaching you or giving you some advice. How much can I trust them? How much experience do they have there? Why are they going to help me? Like how much they're interested in my success. And from that perspective, I found that mentorship is ideal format for me because now I know I'm 100% sure that you're on my side. You're holding my hands through this journey and not only given the knowledge that you're sharing through this program, but also just saying, I'm with you. You're doing the right things. We can do this. It's very, very, very valuable.
And the situation that you started in there is so familiar to what I hear from so many women. They're smart, they're educated, they're like, but I'm listening to all the right podcasts. I'm watching all the right webinars. I'm reading all the right books. I'm getting this knowledge. I have this information, but it's been 6 months. It's been a year. And not saying you, but like, it's been a year. It's been 2 years. I've spoken to women that have said, I've been wanting to do real estate for 15 years and I haven't started, right? I hear so many women in that place. I feel like I'm picturing people with a book, reading that book and almost like just looking for that one sentence that says, Karina, do this, right? And that's clearly not going to be in a book that you're going to pick up at the library. But what did it feel like when you were that woman looking through that book, going page to page and never seeing your name in print?
Yeah, now, Becky, I can bring maybe my medical background to the game because that is exactly the analogy they had when I was in med school and I was reading the textbooks, right? And I was like, okay, interesting. Okay, this is how I have to do this is how I have to do that. And then at certain point, you are facing the real patient. And it's real life. And it's such a dramatical difference between, even if you feel 100% prepared to that, and you read all these textbooks, you took exams, right? And when still you're facing the real deal, it's always, I believe that maybe 100% of my colleagues could share the same. It's always not surprise, but the challenge. And that is why, particularly in medicine, for instance, we have this residency, right? Or internship, when someone senior and experienced is guiding you through this and helping you and saying, I have your back. Don't worry. I will be your insurance here. And from that part of my past, from my experience, I knew that reading textbooks is not enough. So you have to do something in real life, and better to do this as the pilot in a safe environment, right? So sit with someone who is experienced, who can help you, who can guide you, who can be on your side, not doing things for you, but just looking and observing you and correcting you. I believe in many specialities people have it. Like we have supervision in medicine. We have the same practice of internship with lawyers in any area when the stakes are high. And I can say that for many people who are just start investing in real estate, the stakes are high, right? Maybe it's just the $5,000, or not billions or millions. But when you earn this money with your hard work, these 1,500s, it's a big deal for you. So the stakes are high personally. So I knew that I need something extra on top of this textbook knowledge.
Right. And you mentioned that right there so well about really what a mentor is there to do, to kind of look over your back and make sure now we can apply these concepts really in that right way. Because you're right. Sometimes we can take something that we want to learn, and sometimes the people around us may know. Sometimes they might not know. Sometimes they want to give you their opinion. And I'm sure many of our listeners have said to a friend, a family member, maybe even their spouse, hey, I want to buy a rental property. And that person goes back like, oh, that's going to be horrible. You don't want to be a landlord. They're going to call you in the middle of the night, right? We've all heard that. Everybody listening to this has read some of the horror stories in Lady Landlords, right? From our own community of things that have happened. So it's really important that instead of asking people that kind of haven't been there, haven't done it, to really work with somebody that has, to really make sure that you can minimize the mistakes and make sure to put you on the right path. Because regardless of the money that we're spending, that's hard earned, that is a big deal to us to be able to live, it also impacts our ego and our self-worth, which sometimes might be even worth more, and definitely should be worth more than that monetary value that we have. But sometimes it's not just, I don't want to lose the money, but sometimes it'll attack if we're not smart enough because we can't figure it out, or that we're not worthy of that success. And that could actually be more detrimental than even the loss of money. So you then got to that place of frustration, recognized that you really needed support from somebody that's been there, done that. But once we got started, I got to say, you came out and followed every instruction, every homework I gave you, just hit the ground absolutely running. And I got to be honest, it was kind of an ideal situation for me because as I try to explain to my husband, if people would just listen to me more, We might do better. But I have to say, I love that you really came out. Your motivation took you so fast, so far. What was it that you were like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this to a T, which I know is who you are as a human, right? Medical director, being in that profession, science background. We're just kind of those types of people in general. But what was it that had you say, that's it, I'm going to go. I'm going to hit the ground running?
Oh, first the instructions was great, right? So that's definitely the instructions were very clear, straight to the point, and very edible. I should say. There was a moment actually when I found myself, and maybe you can recall it back as well, when I started to accelerate it up too much and I jumped over and actually skipped some things. And then only I realized retrospectively that it was not the best strategy. So I would better do as you recommended me to do, like step by step. So not trying to skip many things. So maybe at that moment of learning, I can bring more specific details what was learned, but at that moment I realized, okay, I have to trust the process and follow what this program is given to me. So
Did it help you focus and to have just clear set step 1, step 2, step 3? Do you feel that you were more efficient with your time, knowing the exact thing you had to focus on rather than before when you just kind of read in a book like, okay, go buy property?
maybe even more specific than time, it's all about, this mental capacity. At some point, that the problem when you know too much, when you read too many textbooks, so you think about, okay, what about this option? What about that option? Maybe I can do this, I can do that. And at that moment, at least that's the problem for me. And it's just eating my brains without delivering any tangible results. And that is the worst for me. I know that I can be in these ruminations or this analysis paralysis loop.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it's very, very helpful. And when you came and helped me, said, Karina, don't think about this now. We will return to this later. Focus on this. Okay.
Right. Because one of our very first conversations when we were kind of building you out your blueprint to follow in the program, you really came with kind of like two different ideas, right? One was clearly buying a property here in the States, which we'll talk about in a second. And then the other was buying out of state, right? Was buying out of the States and purchasing in another country. And those were two very competing ideas that we had that we kind of had to break down. And we talked about the pros and cons of each and really made the decision of starting in the States and then moving to the other property. Do you still feel like that was the right decision?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I cannot thank you enough for that. For encouraging my financial resources, mental resources, emotional resources. Yeah, because again, I see it in many people, if I can say so, when these emotional things that are contaminating your decision-making process. And we're a human, right? It's inevitable. You have to acknowledge that, yeah, I want to enjoy this. I want something just for fun. Being in market for my portfolio just for fun. And I know that many people don't even acknowledge that, but I'm conscious about that, I want some bit of that being just for fun. Yeah. But I also realized, and you helped me a lot with that. Okay, Karina, having this just for fun. We'll have it, but later in the game, you have to have your main course at the time, and then only we'll have a dessert. Like, don't start with the ice cream. So,
Right. And sometimes, and that was it. It wasn't saying that we couldn't do it or that it wasn't a good idea. It was just we had to order what the framework of all the things that you wanted to do and how you envision this portfolio for what you wanted for your family, for your life. But really, what I felt I was able to bring to the table was the insight on how to order those things and to put that into organization. So we started with first property here in the States. You being in California, when we went through our market research, what state did Karina pick?
I know. So I'm laughing because maybe many Californians will share the same thought. I cannot invest locally. And this is a very common cry among high earners here in California, who, again, as me and my husband reached certain threshold in financial security and independence. And they look around and see maybe it's not an ideal situation. And on the other hand, you keep hearing this advice like invest locally, invest in your backyard. It's like, we cannot do this. Like there is nothing for me in my backyard and my neighbor. Oh yeah, I looked at many options, and in your program, you have an amazing team again that helped me not to be lost in that. And it's saying, do not start out of nowhere. Go to the place when you know something or someone. And that is actually narrowed down my options to really visible and tangible numbers. So if you remember, I brought you 3, 4, but not more. Setting. Okay, now my question is, who do I know in America? And I found a couple of places and I started from there, and I'm still very happy with this decision. So that tip helped me a lot.
That was actually a very interesting extra level that we had to go with, because there were states that you just literally physically did not know or had not been to, right? I will never forget the first time my husband and I actually flew to California. It was the first time my husband had flown across the United States. And I was so excited that he could see the Rockies and all of that as we were flying, and he made sure he had a window seat. And you know how on the airplane, on the little screen in front of you, they show you the map? We're flying and my husband's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "What?" He's pointing at a word and he's like, "I don't even know how to say that." My response, "Wyoming." He's like, "What is that?" And I can't even say how he pronounced it because it was not the way that I said it. But because it has a lot of tricky letters in the state of Wyoming. But he just did not even know that that was a state. So for you, in a similar situation, to now be buying in another part of a country that's your new home, I love that you went through that exercise and you chose to buy completely on the other coast in the state of Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, but now we're looking in the state of Georgia. And something else that we determined that was going to be important for you and what your goals were, thinking about college funds, diversification, being able to build real wealth, not just the extra couple bucks we need to put food on the table. We were looking for that, but to really be able to grow, you were open to actually doing rehab on a property in a
Yes.
state that you had never been to before. I loved this. I love that you went for it. So walk me through the steps of what you had to do for that property.
Sure. So yeah, I ended up and I chose Georgia. And by the way, I love this state. I've been there recently during class. It's amazing. I love everything, including climate. Can you imagine? So I really love it. So the Atlanta is a beautiful place. And of course, the people, the community that I found, they're so helping, so supportive. But of course, when I started, I looked at the numbers first. Again, as your program is telling me, look at the numbers. You know, numbers are your best friend. So yeah, I look at the numbers, and the numbers for Atlanta area and some other places in Georgia, they look very well, very attractive. For me, it works much better than in any place in California.
Mhm.
And when the numbers look good, I started to build a team.
Yeah.
And that was the most interesting part of the journey, because every textbook in real estate, right, is starting with build your team, build your team, build your team. I know that I have to build my team. So now I can say that building a team and having the right people on board with you,
Mhm.
it's maybe for me, as out of state investor, it was 90% of success. It was maybe 1000 I put it, but 90% of this success is to build a team with the right people, with the real estate agent, with contractor, who actually inspired me to do this renovation, and the loan officer, and my property manager, yeah, who is my friend actually, who's going to this adventure with me.
Right. Well, and you went through all those steps that we talked about with team building. You followed the instructions, same thing. But there was a point that even though you had done your homework and followed through all the steps, there was a point where we almost said, hey, we have to change out one or two of the team members here. This might not be the fit. And
Yeah.
we were able to really talk through those situations. And we ended up being able to make those relationships work and really realize that they were a good fit. But in this example, not only did you have to work with a realtor and a contractor, which you have clearly had experience with being a homeowner in general, but this time you had to have an interaction with a hard money lender. Yeah. And that was a whole new ballgame for you, wasn't it? We have a lot of ladies that have either been thinking about using a hard money lender. What tips would you give going through that experience now for the first time to somebody that would be new to hard money lending?
I would start with a key message. It's not that scary as it sounds. Dear Lady Landlord, hard money is not that hard. It's overwhelming. It's true. It's very different from the conventional process. At least it was
Hmm.
for me. But it's not that hard. And it can open you many opportunities that you are thinking are closed for you. And that's the best thing. So that's why it exists as a class. So at some point, as you said back, I realized that with the conventional funding, my strategy still possible, but maybe
Hmm.
not that lucrative, not that shining as I wanted to be. And I decided to make a pivot and to look at hard money lender. And then again, I faced the same problem. And at that point, you really want something you can trust, who has a good reputation in this area, and ideally had a much better experience, right? Because I'm a newbie here, so you'd better have someone on your team who's very experienced with the process and who can support and guide you and tell you where could be potential risks or mistakes that you can do and cover that proactively. Because for me, it's not a problem to manage the problem when I face it. The real issue is that I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
So at that point, I had my lender. He was really supportive and helped me to cover these gaps before they actually appear. So
Good. And then now we get to the spot where you flew to now Georgia for the first time to go to your closing, right? So now we've closed on the property. How is the property doing now? And I mean, that was only a few weeks ago, but how do things stand now?
just this morning, my amazing Megan texted me that yes, she's confident that we can complete renovation by the end of September. That will be like 1 month when we are done. We're finishing last touches on the property and we will be ready to rent it out in October.
Good. I can't wait to help you place a tenant. Can't wait
Thank
to do that. That's next steps for us. What would be the one thing that you feel like you learned in the mentorship so far that you feel like is going to carry with you the longest?
the longest or the most impactful because they're like different things. The longest, maybe I'm not so sure how to answer right now. I can tell you what made the biggest impact for me
Mhm.
at that moment of, I can and I have to trust the process of the program. So it built in this way. And there are many things that really help. Even at some point, either skipping them or think, okay, I know that. And I can move out and like building the team or okay, I know about hand money lending. And then with the real case, with the real property, I going back to these textbooks and that is why you're repeated it to me 3 times in 3 different places. Do these, do these, do this. Oh, it was the on purpose. That was the main thing. So maybe again, the longest thing that will stay with me is to trust the process and be patient and don't be afraid of doing iterations. Like doing many times, just try one, doing this first round and then the second one and the third one. And don't be even shy to go there to read it for the first time. You still can discover something new. So I think it's
Right.
a really great program. It's built very well. You're supporting this in an amazing way back here.
Thank you. I am so happy. I know we've talked about it. I know that you've expressed how happy you've been in the program, but just hearing you go through this, I feel very fulfilled in what I do. And that, same thing. One of the reasons that I even went into the medical field years ago, I'm sure the same way you did, is we really just want to see other people succeed and live their best life. And I am so lucky to get to do that on a daily basis. So, but thank you. I appreciate that greatly. What are we working on next?
uh, yes, I'm thinking anyway. Again, we've discussed it as part of our blueprint. We continue to build in my portfolio.
Right.
This first property and some purpose called first property, the first property. So it's even there should be more. So
Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
I'm definitely open to, and I already have something in my mind. What should be the second and the third, and what can I treat as an accomplished first stage before pivoting to something dramatically different? Again, I now feel much more confident in real estate, so I think I will be adventurous enough to explore another options. But the next step is the next property.
I cannot wait to work on that. Now, I love the fact that you are a woman that is so strong, that has such an amazing professional career, but yet moved from another country and has made this country your home. We have so many women in Lady Landlords that have also immigrated from other countries that speak so many different languages that we have in the community, that so many people not only came to the community for not just their American dream of buying their first home, but really being able to give their children a better life moving forward. Since you speak another language, and we have, I know, so many Ukrainian women in our group, would you entertain me with saying a inspirational message to your fellow Ukrainian lady landlords directly to them?
Слава Україні, дівчата, приєднуйтесь до програми. It's basically saying, glory to Ukraine, and join us, join the program.
Oh, that's so you're going to make me cry. Thank you very much. I just know we have so many women that are going to love this story of what you've accomplished. We're going to have you on back to talk about your next property here as you continue to grow your portfolio. But I think the fact that you also came here and went into this American system and just jumped and are just succeeding so well, I think is just going to inspire so many other women, not only those that are from the Ukraine, but just anyone that really is in our community of the 40,000 lady landlords that we have in our group. So thank you so much, Karina. I really appreciate you spending your time out of your busy day to come on and really just share your story with other women. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, like I said, we'll have to set up a time to have you come back and talk about the next property. For all of our other lady landlords out there, please do make sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the next episode of the Lady Landlords Podcast. We release new episodes every single Tuesday. And also, if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to leave a 5-star review. Thanks so much, and see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Lady Landlords Podcast. If you're feeling stuck in your real estate investing journey, visit lady-landlord.com to book a 15-minute orientation call with me and see if you're ready to join our mentorship program. Or you can subscribe to our newsletter and join our Facebook group for exclusive real estate investing tips and offers. Invest with confidence. Become a lady landlord today.